The following podcast, iDesign Lab, is an SW Group production in association with 5 Star and TW Interiors. This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. iDesign Lab provides industry insight, discussing the latest trends, styles, and everything in between to better help you style your life through advice from trendsetters, designers, influencers, innovators, fabricators, and manufacturers, as well as personal stories that inspire, motivate, and excite. So whether you're listening to iDesign Lab during your commute, or in a cozy nook in your home or office, grab a coffee or a Chardonnay and join us on this elevated, informative, and lively journey into the world of all things design. We're excited to welcome Gavin Robin, the dynamic founder and creative principal of Damn Good Agency, a trailblazer in the world of marketing and branding for nearly 35 years. Hailing from South Africa, Gavin's creative journey took him through the vibrant streets of Toronto, San Francisco, and Miami before he planted his roots in Delray Beach. Known for his bold, unconventional approach to problem solving, Gavin has built a diverse team of visionaries dedicated to pushing creative boundaries and elevating brands across various industries, from luxury goods to nonprofit organizations. With a hands-on leadership style and a passion for community engagement, Gavin has cultivated strong relationships and a culture of excellence at Damn Good. Get ready to be inspired by a true innovator who believes in coloring outside the lines. Gavin, welcome to the iDesign Lab.
Today, we have a damn good guest. I would love to welcome Gavin Robin to the iDesign Lab podcast.
Thank you. Gavin, we've known for quite a few years. I've had the pleasure of doing some projects and trying to do some projects with you where I brought to your agency, but extremely creative individual and extremely creative company.
Tell us a little bit about the Damn Good Agency.
We love the name. It's a great name.
Yeah, how did that even, maybe start with that story.
Well, the agency's been around 35 years. And when we started, it was D&G Communications Group.
Okay.
And it was very corporate. Agencies took very corporate names, and it was just stale. And I'm originally from South Africa, and I've lived in LA, I've lived in Toronto, and I love the city life, and I've always liked pushing buttons. I believe in like a disruptive approach to get someone's attention and do things a little differently. So I noticed that, a DG Communications Group was kind of cool. We just blended.
Right.
And I went to a meeting, and at the end of the meeting, the client turned around and said, so, tell me a little bit about your agency. And I just said, well, the DG stands for Damn Good, and that's exactly who we are. And everybody years ago looked at me, and that was it. And then when we moved into our building, we couldn't put signage because the city wouldn't allow us to put signage Damn Good on our windows.
No way.
Which we did.
Right.
And then we got our hands slapped, and we paid a fine, and everything was fine.
Really?
Yes.
That's funny. Yes. Well, speaking of your agency and your office, your office design is truly memorable. I think everybody who walks through the door there definitely knows that there's a lot of creativity that happens at that agency. How did you come up with your aesthetic, I guess, for creating that design?
Great question. So I looked at different types of textures. And the textures that I love is concrete because it's very cold, it's gray, it's contemporary. And I love the idea of natural elements. That's why we put a tree. And we built our couch on a log. And there were a lot of natural elements of wood. Because of the color yellow, which was bright and sunshine, and it just stood out, that was the core color palette and the look and the feel. And then I incorporated stainless steel. That spiral staircase, a friend of mine who has a company that makes davits for yachts.
Boats.
I designed it, he made it. And then the industrial steel chairs, and I had lettering that I'd bought over the years.
But what about the Fuddrucker sign?
Right,
The
that's-
burger
I
sign.
know. I was gonna ask
were
that
you a
question.
Fuddrucker fan or
Yes.
burgers?
Yes. So when I first came to the country, there was, there was Fridays and those Bennigans.
right.
And
They're all
True.
go- and they're
oh my
all
God,
gone now.
Bennigan's, that's a name from the past.
yeah.
Yeah, they're all
But
gone.
Fuddruckers I'd gone to, and I loved the concept, which was different. You walked in, you got to see through the glass window, you saw the meat.
That's right.
And I loved this brand. And I heard that the Fuddruckers in Fort Lauderdale was closing, and I pitched them and asked if I could buy the exterior sign.
And you did?
And I did.
Huh.
And
So-
then I kept that. And when I bought the building, I had steel girders knowing that I wanted to have
Hang
that sign.
that sign.
Yeah.
It's brand. To
It
me, it was
is.
brand, and it was bold, and it was a unique brand. And coming from another country to America, the Fuddruckers had this very American, iconic,
Name
yeah,
or
and feel
connotation.
burgers, and
Yeah. So the Damn Good Agency, a creative design agency, what kind of clients, what kind of projects? Because you're when it comes to design, you're everywhere. I mean, when it comes to a brand or a person or a personality, creating the whole design for. Tell us a little about.
So, when I started in the design field, I was a kid. I left South Africa when I was 21, and I arrived in America on my own with 2 suitcases, and my father gave me $2,000, and he was like,
There you go.
start your life. So I didn't really have anything behind me, and I wanted to work in Coconut Grove.
Did you know you wanted to be in a design or creative?
No,
Wow.
No.
Wow.
So how did you,
Truly
how'd that
entrepreneurial
happen?
spirit then.
I wanted to work in Coconut Grove.
Okay.
I found a job at an ad agency in Coconut Grove.
Huh.
And I went into the ad agency, and they said, can you do this, and can you design? And I've always been creative. And I said, why didn't you test me?
Right.
Try me. And they did. And I succeeded. And that's how I thought, I love this. I love design. But I love different design. I love learning about different things.
Right.
And I always said that when I started my agency, I didn't want to either concentrate on specifically medical or corporate or
Right.
tech. I wanted to learn everything. And I love the challenge of not knowing anything and having to do the research and learning about it to really look at it from a different perspective. Because you become stale, I think, if you're in the same field of doing, design. If you follow that
Yes.
same design, same,
Yes.
you become stale.
Yes.
You got to grow. And I'm a sponge. I love learning.
Me too.
So to me, it was about doing anything and everything. If it was a challenge and we didn't know, that's it. Let's do it.
I love that.
That's how we.
And speaking of doing some research, because as I was reading, your bio and everything, what stuck out at me was that you are the creative director of Damn Good. And on my business card, I also have creative director, but we both have 2 different businesses, 2 different industries. And as I was researching it, I was like, wonder where, because I took it from the fashion industry, like just reading Vogue all those years and, the creative director of Gucci, the creative so-and-so. But I realized it did start in advertising. So where do you see that creative director title evolving?
Well, to me, I think creative director is so more than just creative director, and it depends on the individual. But I love fashion, I love design, I love food, I love movies, I love architecture, I love everything that's creative. And I think that a true good creative director has a vision of everything, so that it's just not one layer of delivering a creative piece, whatever it might be, but think about the experience, the person that's opening that, receiving that, experiencing that. What would the smell be like?
So
What
true.
would the look, what would the feel, what would the music sound like? What would the weather? I love all of that.
So what kind of clients are your typical clients? Is it, you mentioned different industries. Is it just all over the map?
We in our history, we've been really fortunate because we've worked for some really cool brands, and we've done some rather large global initiatives. We did United Franchise Corporation. They own many franchises around the world, all over. And one of the largest franchises that they own is Sinorama.
No.
And we were brought in to rebrand from Sign-A-Rama to the Sign-A-Rama that exists today. And we did a 2-year project in doing focus groups and research with different countries in learning about their brand, their audience, their growth, and then reposition them with new branding strategy and creative.
So you're involved from a design standpoint of possibly rebranding, a new name, a new logo, what the brand is going to look like, what colors, the palette.
Audience, how do you sell it? What are the channels? How do you communicate? If we spoke about the brand now, where will the brand be in 3 years from now? What are the verticals for this market? Really looking at how you can really push.
So how do you organize all that information, like with your team, to actually insert it into how that campaign, I guess, evolves? What's that process, that strategy?
Is there a process?
Yes. Yeah.
'Cause sometimes
To
you think of design, you just like come off of it, off the top of your head and throw it up against the wall, and that's it. But I guess it's not completely like that all the time.
Well, I think creative just comes from, research, and you see something and it sparks an idea.
Agreed.
But I think for me, maybe I'm a little anal in the fact that I like a process. So I like road mapping and setting meetings to have certain things accomplished by. Meaning, if we brief the team and we consult as a group, I'm going to brief you and tell you what I'm looking for you to come back to me with some ideas so that we can go to the first mile marker and reach that point, and then hit the second marker, and then reach the third point of then presenting to the client. But I love doing research, and maybe it's because I'm not from America, but
the history
No, I like to do research and look at brands in other parts of the world.
But is it research compared to like who the competitor is, or is it research just to really understand that particular brand and where they may or should be going in the future?
It's kind of all of that.
All of it.
So if we get an opportunity with a client in a specific industry, and it's for product marketing, product placement on shelves, and how do we grow the product, and there might be sub-products from that.
Right.
What I'd like to do is then look at those products in other parts of the world. How are they packaged? How are they presented? Who is the competition in those parts of the country? And then bring it into America. I feel if you look from America and you just take a national pool, your thinking is a little stifled.
Shallow.
Whereas if you look from other parts of the world before you think of America and us locally, you get a different perspective. It's a different take.
So do most of these brands that come to you, are they looking for a global approach, or are they, do you even consider that strategy? Are we going local? Are we going regional? Are we going literally global?
With every project, even if it's a small account, I still look from an outside competitive landscape, or just to get an outside influence from another country, because they do it differently. Like Australia does things differently. The UK is different. And then you're talking about other parts of the world, like the Far East, that is very different. It just sparks ideas, ignites the fire, and it creates the drive.
The excitement.
So do you think that are there any areas in the world where design is more relevant or important than America? Where you can say
Well, that's a loaded question, because I think of design. I think of Europe, and I think of
Well, you're thinking of fashion in Paris and so forth. Probably that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But that influences you.
Right.
Right.
That influences you. Yeah, definitely. I think that some European countries are far ahead of design.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
There's one designer, actually two designers. I don't know if you know Rick Owens.
I've heard of, yeah.
So Rick Owens is an incredible designer, and his wife, Michelle Lamy, is... They genius because they do furniture, they do lifestyle, they do, I think she used to be a DJ or produce music or movies, I can't remember, but their whole
That's
life
a lot of creativity.
is creativity every day, from clothing, from everything. And they live in Milan, and they live in the States, and I just think that sometimes the brands are a little different and unique and further ahead than us.
So one of the things I was also thinking about when it comes to branding is like in this social media world, in this, like we just were having a conversation before we started taping about like OnlyFans and just where everybody is a brand. I mean, we are like, how do you continue to grow in your business and in your field when everybody themselves is creating their own little brand uniquely, whether they realize it or not? And is that a good thing? Or like we were saying, like the pros and cons to the social media influence world?
Yeah, very interesting question, because I think years ago, personal brand representation didn't really exist. You know, it was only celebrities and certain people, but everyone else was just the norm, and then you were under the company. It's not like that anymore. It's all about the personal brand.
Right.
And I think growing that is huge. I've known you a long time, and everything I know about you is you're connected with everybody. You're just the nicest guy, and you're always connecting and doing everything for everybody. That's your personal brand.
Right.
That's how you are known.
How do we capitalize on that?
Start an OnlyFans. How do we capitalize on that? I think, I love helping people. I love
Right.
connecting
So do I.
people.
Yeah.
I get off on that. I love that. It's nothing to do with finance or whatever. I love connecting people or bringing things full circle or helping and supporting.
Right.
And I think as I've gotten older, you know, I'm only 25 now. So as I've gotten older in my career, I'm focusing more on running and being more of that person that's present to do that connection and manage more of what I was doing than team members. I'll give direction and support and do everything, but I'm more involved in my clients and accounts than I've ever been before.
So how many team members do you have in-house, or do you also bring in freelance people? How does each account get built?
I've never really freelanced before. We've always been an in-house team.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I
I like
believe-
that myself.
Yeah, I have some team
I
members
love
that
the
have been with me 15
collaboration.
years. So you get to know each other. I really know how to work with them. I also push everybody. Once I get to know you and I receive back, information or design or, content, I always like to push it further and
Get
take
more.
that person further so that they can expand and think a little more. But you can only do that with people you have a rapport and a relationship and a connection with. With a freelancer,
True.
you don't really know. The work might be really good and phenomenal, but I prefer building relationships.
Right.
And I think actually as our world evolves, as we go into this AI world and all this, I think these relationships, it's going to come back to truly what's most important. I mean, I actually, when I was researching some things about my field in AI and realizing that one of the industries that wouldn't get hit so quickly was interior design. And I found that so fascinating because, even here in the office, they'll play around with it, and you can't take away that relationship and that partnership of that real life collaboration.
Not at all.
Do you see any AI interference or any growth in a positive
AI
way?
has to be affecting what you're doing. I know just from what we do, like just this podcast, when we're done with this podcast, 2 years ago, and for the last 20 years before, we would edit it and chop it all up and make little clips to put it out there on the internet or on social media to promote it. Now we just take the podcast, we drag it and drop it into an AI program, and 3 minutes later we got 30 clips already produced and done.
That's insane.
With lower thirds and
Yeah.
and whatnot, and even stock footage dropped in.
Yeah.
So with what you're doing, just ChatGPT for scripting and so forth. How does that, is that a concern, or you think that's going to help or hinder the design world?
I think it's going to help certain aspects, but I still think that there's a human component that has to know how to manage that and pull what you need from that. If you rely on that totally, I don't buy that.
Right.
But it can support you. It's just it's a digital
tool.
aid.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool in your.
So it's like having another freelancer
It's
because there's no
Great
real relationship. So
we did a project for a client and we did a photo shoot and we had to work within the parameters of the surrounding. And days gone by, you would edit and you would Photoshop that photo and it would take you a while.
right.
Within 5 minutes, that photograph was back on my laptop. They'd sent it to me, one of my team members, and it was phenomenal. There was a whole background and there was another door going out to another part of a studio and it just looked huge.
Right.
So
Well,
There's a
that's the
benefit.
benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit.
But he knew based on the client and what we needed to have within that visual, so he was able to direct what needed to be done. So that's
Because
why I
of the
still think
intimate
it's
relationship with building that brand and building
Right.
that team
right.
in house.
So when you're creating a design for a client, I've always seen one of the biggest things biggest concerns is you're going to create a whole new design, a whole new look, a whole new logo, whatever it is you're designing. You got to present it to the client. And everyone has a different opinion of what they like. But fitting in of designing it, also taking into account, is the client going to like this? I mean, what's your process? What's your thoughts on that?
I'm sure
Because you got to sell your design at the end of the day to pay the bills.
I'm sure it must be the same in your field.
It is, yeah. The
You
spin.
listen to the client and you take everything that they tell you and find those key words that you can latch onto.
Right.
That when you do your presentation, you can present it back to them. You said this is what you were looking for. You
Right.
said that this was your brand. You said that this was. So you're telling them what they've told you.
So
And-
there's an important skill that I have noticed, especially with Tiffany, what she does. It's reading the client, listening to the client is what you're saying.
100%.
Right, yeah.
100%.
Because I see that with Tiffany, with clients that come in, the house is like drab and whatever, and then a week, 2 weeks later, she comes up with a design. And I sometimes say to her, is this client going to like this? And sure enough, they do. And I think it's because she really does a good job reading the client. So you must.
100%. That's why I totally think it relates, because you have to understand them. You have to take into consideration their lifestyle, the
Well,
family
it's a lifestyle
dynamics.
approach big time for
Everything.
me. I mean,
Right.
that's definitely the biggest part of how I approach things is how people are going to live in their house.
Right.
You know, their level of entertaining, their level of family interaction, kids, all that kind of is a
Right.
very important dynamic.
You have to listen.
So I guess it would be the same in branding. And then once that presentation time comes, what does that look like? Is that all like a presentation on a digital package? Do you do that in-house? How does that
Face to
work?
face. What's the
So I'm a little old school.
okay.
Because to me, tactile, actually opening up something and interacting with it is very different than just a digital presentation via Google Meet.
Right.
I agree.
So I did a presentation yesterday where I took them paper samples and color and texture. Very high-end real estate company within Palm Beach Island. So the homes that they sell are 50 million and above. Very high-end. That to me is that person that you're speaking with and you interact with. Whatever tools you provide them, they're going to look at this because it's all about the level of quality. So I do that in person. A lot of our meetings are done via Google Meet, most of them, because we don't meet clients like we used to in person anymore. But to
Which
me,
I think
that's
is a shame.
terrible because you lose so much.
I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
You lose so much,
Yeah.
but we can still get it done. But any opportunity, I'm willing to drive. I even drove to Melbourne for a meeting to present to them in person because it was important. And I get excited.
I do too.
And I'm very pumped and I'm excited if I feel I've nailed this.
Right.
Sometimes
That's a good
there's,
feeling.
well, we don't like this, and that's okay, we'll pivot.
Yep.
But I get excited about what I've put into this to present to you. I love that.
So when you've done that work and a brand is evolving, I mean, are you with that for the company mainly for the long haul? I mean, do they constantly evolve their, I guess, their design of the actual logo or color scheme? Like, how often is it, I guess, natural that clients or brands would pivot and update, or where is consistency? I guess what I'm trying to ask is.
I think, you know, with technology and website and social media, things evolve much quicker with a brand. And in order to keep a brand fresh and relevant, you have to implement certain things and you have to refresh the brand. Global brands, Burger King, every brand, they refresh their brands, their color palette and their marketing. We've been really fortunate that a lot of our clients are repeat clients for like third time of working with them. And we work on retainer with some clients. So some of them are retainer annual projects or annual relationships that might be a longer standing relationship, was a 13-year client relationship until they sold the company. But brands do need to refresh and you do need to keep constant. So we generally, like on a 5-year plan, really look and analyze the brand, where the brand is and how we need to propel it forward or what we need to do. But there's project work of evolving the website and other marketing pieces as far as email drip campaigns and landing pages and paid marketing initiatives that are ongoing on a regular basis.
What is the, you know, I feel like years ago it would have been like in a print ad, I mean, or in magazines, or where is the information being received the greatest in the world we live in today? Social media.
Instagram, TikTok.
Right.
Yeah. YouTube.
So it really is a social media.
So you think that's killed print and TV and...
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So where will print go? I mean, are we going to stop paper printing, like books and all that kind of stuff?
I don't think so, and I hope not, because...
But a lot has disappeared.
Yeah.
But there are the staples, I think, will always be around because everyone still likes to pick up a magazine or a book.
You know, part of what I did for years was I used to go to the bookstores and I would buy all the foreign magazines. And I would spend a ton of money and come home and just read and look at their ads, and even in other languages. And I loved that. And over the years, I've stopped doing that because there's less of those magazines that are available.
Right.
And people don't
But you
read.
keep leaning back to, you seem to be getting
yeah.
more inspiration on international design than
I do.
North American design.
I do.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you also.
They have a different take, and a lot of especially Australia and the UK, are a lot more advanced as things they can say and imagery that they can
really?
showcase.
Really?
Yeah, than the States. We're more conservative
Right.
in our approach. And I like that disruptive approach because I think that that's what draws attention and that's what can really...
Right, as long as they're talking about you.
Exactly. Exactly.
So for an individual who wants to get into your industry, what skills do you recommend or you feel that a person really needs to have? What are the most important?
It's funny because I don't even think that they relate to the job requirements. I think passion. Passion is number one for me. And the willingness to learn.
Right.
Because, you know, be open to learning from everybody, younger than you, older than you. Everybody is going to teach you something. But if you've got that passion and that thirst for learning, and you've got the knowledge of, you know, being open to every form of design, don't just focus on, you know, your specific area. You're going to be a huge success.
What would a dream-like client look like for you? I mean, would it be like a Tesla, or would it be like, you know, our new restaurant in a small area like Delray where we live, or do you not even really think of it like that?
I think, again, I think it must relate to your industry as well, but your journey with that client is so much richer and
Yeah.
successful if they in it with you.
That's true.
They help and support you, and they're
100%.
together with you. So
Yeah.
sometimes a client will hire us and they're not really involved in their brand. They just want you to deliver the elements so that they can go to market, but they're not there on the journey. But if they're with you on the journey, the end result is far greater. So
It's true.
It's very much with her
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
It's funny because when I first started, I was only in high-end residential, super high-end residential. And, you know, that's all I knew. That was the only world I knew. And then as I became a mother and met people through my kids' schools, they're like, oh, do you think you could come help me? And, you know, slowly my projects started being more young families. And it was such a much more rewarding, you know, feeling and being a part of something that where you're really educating them essentially along the way as well. I mean, evolving their tastes,
Right.
evolving their lifestyle of things that you've learned, you know, educating them on better quality items and not the instant gratification. And, you know, the reward is
100%
definitely
agree.
much better than a second home or a third home. And they're here, they fly in and you have the candles lit, you know, totally different experience. And most of those projects continue, like they just evolve. Then you go from nurseries to teenage rooms, and now my backyard needs a refresh, and you just
because you've built that relationship,
Yeah.
that connection, you know that person. So that's why working with a freelancer, you don't have that.
Right.
Whereas when you have that real connection and you've taught each other, you've worked with each other, you know each other, obviously there's going to be more opportunities to work together again in the future.
You know, there's something interesting with the interior design with Tiffany's businesses. I would say that almost every client of hers is involved in the process, but there's a big distinction and difference is that the clients that they're very involved, but they go completely 100% in Tiffany's direction, meaning whatever she's bringing to the table, they're going along with.
well, that's
And those
trust.
but those projects are the ones that are just spectacular, like magazine worthy or in magazines afterwards. But it's the projects where the client is very involved, but wants to have the final say in every single aspect of it. They don't come out to the degree that you would expect them or should, because that client's not really. They hired an expert, but didn't
Trust.
or let the expert provide. And
Agreed.
it's, I've seen this. I just came from a home this morning where I had to stop by that Tiffany's doing. And it's a project that the city is very involved in because it's an historic house. It's been taking forever. But the battle that she's gone through with the city to get the house to what it should be. This morning I walked around going, my God, this is like unbelievable. But that particular client, no matter what Tiffany has brought to the table, that woman has like, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh my, and excited.
I love that because
know.
they trust you. And you're 100% correct. You hire the expert. Let the expert do their job. You can work alongside with them and be involved, but let the expert do their job.
Right, but coming from the production business, working with so many corporations and companies over the years, where you've got a marketing department, you got involved in the executive of marketing, and they've got their own opinions. It's like a battle of trying to provide. So you must have that same situation. That's a little frustrating at times.
Actually, taking it to the flip side, one of the reasons I wanted to start my own agency, I always knew I wanted, at 21 when I started and I loved this field, I want to have an agency. But as I grew and I started working in agencies, I found that the account executives would meet with the client. They would have that connection and that rapport.
Right.
It would go through to the creative director and the brief, and then the creative director would brief the art director, and the art director would brief me, the
Right.
next person in line. But there was no connection for me with the end result. I didn't like that. And I knew that the only way that I could get around that was that I have to be in the driver's seat.
Right.
Well, that's where the boutique operation becomes so important
Right,
to that
right.
connection.
No, boutique operation. Have you ever had aspirations? You are a boutique,
Firm.
organization. But then you look at, the Chiat Days, the BB, the big, huge agencies. Even Zimmerman, which Tiffany has done his house like twice, I think. I mean, have you ever aspired to want to have a huge agency or
No.
build it? Because that's a whole different, business in
No.
itself.
No, I like to. You can ask anyone on my team. I will give
That's
my
so
input.
interesting.
I will give my direction, but I won't change their design. In other words, if that's what they've come up with, and I ask them, "You sure this is right?" and we drive to that conversation, I will still present what they've done. I'm not going to change it to the way it should be, the way I like it.
So how do you even accept that process without does your gut tell you something different or you trust?
Generally, when I ask the question, "Are you really sure
Yeah.
that this is it?" And well, what do you think? And then I'll tell them what I think. And then we'll compromise, or we'll generally land up with where I think it should be to meet the client's needs. I think that's the best way of positioning that we still deliver, but I'm involved in every aspect
Yeah.
because I am. Whereas I couldn't if I was in a big, it's not me.
Right.
I
It's
know.
not my being.
When I first worked too, and I worked for another company for just 1 year before I started my own business, I never forget literally getting in the office in the morning. It was 45 minutes just on inner office voicemails. And I was always like, that's so crazy. That's so much time that we're not being creative. And then too, when big companies, sometimes they limit you because not only with your time, but they've got deals with this person and that deals with that person. You got to use this color schemes from these people. You're very limited. Do you ever come across that type of thing at all?
Yes.
With
yes.
bigger.
And I think being able to be agile
Yeah.
and, get it done is the attitude, whereas in corporate and in bigger firms, it's not.
Right.
And I just found that, to me, there's more stumbling blocks.
I agree.
No.
Do most of your clients, are they in the area? No. How do people find you, get to you? Relationship, word of mouth, or
Word of mouth and relationship.
Yeah.
We don't market ourselves, and it's a big noise. It's a cacophony out there, and how to get through is kind of hard. Word of mouth and referrals that's how I built my business.
So you're designing social media, you're designing ads, you're designing marketing for all these other brands, but you're not doing any for yourself to grow to find your clients, but it's all organically just coming, which has a lot to say of you and your agency.
Yeah. I mean, we've participated, and I've been involved in organizations, and we've done various things to promote the brand. But past COVID, it's more of it's always been a word of mouth referral, but now we're totally just relying on that word of mouth referral, which has carried us 35 years being in the industry.
Right.
We're known. Either you like us or you don't.
Right.
We're the right fit or we're not.
Right.
So if someone wants to find you, it's damngood.com.
Agency.
DamngoodAgency.com.
No, damngood.agency.
Oh, damngood.agency. Okay.
Yeah. Years ago, again, I didn't want a .com. I wanted to be different. So there was exactly. So there was no one with .agency. So the idea is we're Damn Good Agency. It's just damngood.agency.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't do .com?
No.
I didn't even know you couldn't do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
So many.
I'm not very computer literate, but
Yeah.
Wow.
Brands years ago, everyone was either a .net or a .com.
right.
And we did research, and I'm talking like 15 years ago, of establishing a .agency.
Wow. So how do you use social media, or don't you, personally, or personally for your business development?
There's no difference between personal life and business life.
No,
It
blurred
all
lines.
meshes.
It's all the
Yeah,
same.
it's blurred lines.
My wife is always irritated with me because we'll go anywhere, and I start looking around and start thinking about how I would change the architecture.
Yeah, that's a personal problem of mine
Exactly.
too.
And I love that because that's what.
Same thing with watching a movie or a TV show. I'm like, oh my God, look at that sconce on the wall. Or, like everything's, I'm honed in on something else that has to do with a design, detail, visual. I guess I'm very visual.
And back to the question, which is, I partake in everything from a social media perspective because I think that that's obviously the channels that we market through, and that you need to be aware of everything that's out there and see how others do it. Mm-hmm. And you learn so much from social media. As much as it's wonderful, it's also a negative. But it's definitely a tool and a channel that is most absorbed. People want quick, bite-sized pieces of information that they can absorb quickly. And how do you get through their feed to make them look at this? Yeah. Depending on their age group and their dynamic and their industry, how do you get them to absorb and take action, purchase, follow through, book, whatever it is?
Yeah, there's been a big, I'll say, paradigm shift in the interior design industry. We talked a few minutes about AI and digital and so forth, but I could tell you that the clients that are coming in now for interior design, Tiffany and the group, they'll design, let's say it's a kitchen, but all of the design, all of the ideas are basically created in a 3D photorealistic image, picture. That's what's presented to the client.
Right.
They're seeing blueprints, they're seeing the layouts, they're seeing mood boards of all the furniture and so forth that's going in. But the actual furniture and lights and everything are put into a photorealistic picture. And then Tiffany presents, here's your room, what it looks like, here's your kitchen right now. And this is what your kitchen could be. And it's so real looking. It looks like someone took a picture in the future. And virtually every client, when they see it, oh my God, that's what my house could look like. That's exactly what your kitchen could look like. Where do I sign? I want this done.
Right.
I mean, it's changed the business. Is there something like that in the creative agency that's made a big difference?
Yes. We've always, like I said, the very tactile component of showing everything. When we present anything, we go to the level of producing it to what it should look like. We just did a pitch yesterday. We showed them the outside of their building. In Palm Beach Island, they have a building. They have a historic building. We repainted the building. We put up new signage. We put up shutters.
Okay.
We changed the plants.
So very similar.
Exactly. And we showed that to them, and they were blown away by this.
Wow,
they were like, absolutely, how do we get this approved?
Right.
And that's, I don't know. That's on you.
Right.
But we've given you the vision, so you recreate everything in the real sense that they can touch and feel and see and hear.
Yeah.
And then it connects.
It does connect.
That's interesting. How do they get it done? In the interior design business,
Scott's got a finished
we're helping them get it done as well. Because we've created this idea, or Tiffany and the group has created this look, this idea, like the house that's the historic house that I just mentioned. Okay, now how do we get this passed through the city, that the city is going to say it's, historic?
I said that I would help them because the way that I got my building painted
Right.
and my
And
building
no, and it is
executed was I
iconic
fought the
here.
city
Yeah.
5 times. And then eventually I got the board turned over. But I have a way, we're going to document video of color palettes on the island that are similar. And we're going to put a video together that will present the case for them to get the building painted. And it's not a drastic change. It's just Palm Beach Island.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that had to be a fun project.
Yeah, I'm excited on this one.
Do you pitch projects and go in like against other competing agencies?
Yeah.
How does that work? Where you're not like giving away the ideas for free, I guess.
To me, it's about the presentation. So I'll give an example. Perot Farms.
Okay.
You can see all their vegetables at
Yeah,
Publix, and
yeah.
they're huge.
They're here too, right?
Yeah. We pitched and we went in against 10 agencies.
Wow.
And we actually made our presentation in a seed package that was big. That was their brand about their new produce, their new vegetables. We designed it. We wrote the copy. we put it in a craft paper package with fake vegetables with brown hessian at the bottom, and we delivered it to each person.
Oh my God, I love that.
That makes an impression that's different than everything that's coming across digitally.
Agreed.
That's, to me, that's how you do it. So when we get these opportunities, we go overboard with food. We do cookies. We do different presentations based on the opportunity.
I've done so many different things like that over the years that about the presentation, or just delivering. I had a contract that I was trying to win with NASA, space agency, and it had to do with producing or updating the films at the Kennedy Space Center. The amusement, not amusement park, but the visitor center and so forth. And we created all the storyboards and so forth. And then I had 3 of the guys that worked for me drive the presentations up to NASA to drop them off. But I went to Costume World and I rented 3 NASA suits, like from the 1950s, like what an astronaut wore in the early part of the space agency. And then we went and bought these really cool boxes, with like little metal edges to them and so forth. We made stickers that looked like, they traveled all over the world, all having to do with space and aviation, put them all over it. Then we took the boxes, went out in the street and kicked them around to make it look like they were worn and had been used. And then inside the box was foam. And back then it was VHS tape when we did this, or DVD, so everything was inlaid in the box. And the guys delivered these boxes that looked like, the road cases from NASA in NASA outfits to the NASA, marketing
great.
and PR. And we won the contract because of that, because they just could not forget how we delivered.
100% agree.
Yeah.
There was a large project that was being reconstructed from an old shopping center in Boca, corner 18th and Power Line.
Okay.
The wharf side.
Yes.
Yep.
And that was up for bid with a lot of agencies, and we got hard hats in their color. We had their logo put on. I got my staff to roll up like floor plans. We all came in with laptops, and we came into a meeting that they were having, and we had these signs that we had made 3D that said, "We'll get it done, and we'll get it done now." And we walked in and we said, "Hi," and we all had our laptops open, and we said, "We're ready to get this result," and we put this down in front of everybody, and everyone was just looking because they weren't sure what was going on. But we made an impression. We didn't deliver just a piece of paper or a digital presentation. And I think going that extra mile shows the creativity, shows that you're willing to put more into this, and that you stand out.
Yeah.
That's the approach. Obviously, it works.
Yeah, it definitely works.
So you want to ask some of these little interesting questions?
Sure.
We end our podcasts asking our guests some interesting design questions. You want to do the first one?
What is your favorite gift to give?
It varies because I like gift giving based on the person, meaning if they're very into music, then it would be music tickets or something like that. If it's dining experience and they're foodie, so I like giving very specific, that means something.
Right. Because I always feel like sometimes I don't get so clever, but those 2 ideas actually were really clever.
What's your favorite restaurant from a design standpoint? Do you have one?
Yes.
Do you have one you can think of? Or?
I've never been. I think it's called Kunto, and it's in a hotel called Azulik.
Where's that?
It's Tulum.
Okay.
Oh, fun.
And it's a bird nest.
Yes.
It's different bird nests.
Okay, I'm familiar with it
that
too.
you sit literally in a bird nest on different levels, and the dining experience is phenomenal, and it's very sensory. So it's from the tasting of the food, and you sitting in the jungle, and you hear all the sounds, and
Really? Tiffany did a house in Tulum.
Yeah, but I'm familiar with it because that's what we were using as a lot of inspiration and everything. I know Tulum is a design Like the design created Tulum. I mean, really.
Exactly.
Like the whole brand that they created of this, bohemian, earthy,
And so the whole idea.
Put Tulum on the map.
Exactly. The whole idea of this hotel is everything is experiential. So you in these little villas, bird nests that are made from wood, and everything is your bath is outside, and your swimming pool is outside, but the whole it's sight, sound. So they do different forms of gathering together as a hotel group, and they do different like treatments. It's not normal spa treatments. It's everything is just you taking in what Tulum has to offer you.
An experience.
Yeah. So it goes even beyond the restaurant. It's just, the whole design of this is just the walking from the car to, and I've not been, but walking from, I watch a lot of videos on this.
Bucket list there. Because that was actually my next question, was a hotel. So, I mean, and actually, as we were just discussing that place in Tulum, it like brought to mind the brand situation of like literally, 7 years ago, Tulum was nothing. And now, I mean, people are building getaway houses there, and it's pretty amazing. My client was telling me, I'm like, well, he's like, I'm going to rent this house out. And I'm like, well, who's going to rent this house from you? He's like, oh, there's all these digital nomads. I had never heard of such a thing. But people who literally go and live in different parts of the world for months at a time.
Well, you fly to Cancun, then you drive like an hour. It's about like an hour.
No, now there's an airport.
There's an airport in Tulum now? Yeah, it's like...
Yeah. And that's the one thing that the world has changed, post-COVID, that you can do all this. You can experience, and you can meet, and you can... And I love that. From that perspective.
I agree from that perspective.
Do you have a design hero?
Oh, yes. Tom Ford.
Tom Ford.
Oh, I love that. It's so funny you say that, because when I do my like research and items and dive into all my things I do, Tom Ford, he is somebody who is so passionate about every level of design, and he's a collector.
He's a film producer.
Yeah.
He started off in design at an agency. He turned Gucci around.
Yes.
So I don't know if you remember his campaign that was his perfumes and his aftershave that were positioned in the most provocative locations.
No. I'm going to have to look it up.
I'll send you. He broke every rule by using naked people with the bottles of perfume or aftershave in the most inappropriate locations. That it wasn't dirty. It wasn't anything. It wasn't pornographic. It was just a beautiful, creative thinking of, wow. And it stood out.
He's so intentional with everything.
His latest aftershave, fucking fabulous.
Yeah.
As a mainstream.
Yeah.
That's the name of it?
Fucking fabulous.
Yeah.
It's on the bottles.
Well,
it's
and
advertised.
He bought like Betsy Bloomingdale's iconic home in Hollywood, and he has a home here in Palm Beach. I mean, he's a collector of like furniture. I have a client when we were like curating their house, we went in a store and they were like, one of these antique stores, and they're like, oh, they only have their desks. There's only two of these made. There's a black one and a white one. You can have this white one, but Tom Ford has the black one. It was like, I'm taking it. It's all you had to say. And that desk went home. And that room needs nothing else. I mean, he is so intentional. I love that. He really is. He's definitely an icon. And really under the radar to a degree.
That's the other thing that I really like is he's just normal.
Yeah.
I like the way he's positioned himself in his ads, but he's not over the top. He's like just a normal guy. He's just
and yet classic, like you just said too. Like he's pushing the envelope in so many ways,
so elegant,
but his aesthetic and his is really so like old school and classic and truly timeless.
Right.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, his campaigns are phenomenal. Like
Does he work, do you know, like, does he work with one agency or does he spread it over, like, I mean, is that another?
I don't know, but I think that he has different creative teams for the various campaigns, and they evolve. So I don't know if it's the same team and he's bringing on some new people, but
yeah, he's an icon.
there's another guy that I truly love. His name is Woodkid. He's a musician.
I'm not familiar.
And he's a creative art director, and he shoots in very high definition, ultra black and white. So it's super sharp, very emotional, and he does storytelling. And the one year he did an album that was devoted to kids following their passion and their dream and becoming something. And it was based on a key to life. And all the videos were shot in the same manner and the same theme and the same everything. And then the next album was very focused on the world that we live in and these big oil rigs and companies that are just destroying the world. And it was called Yellow. And then he comes up with a logo.
Musician.
Yeah. But he comes up with a logo and a theme and a brand and a color palette and messaging and
kind of music?
soulful.
Is it instrumental or?
It's electronic dance music that is soulful, but it's like very mellow, and the words are really powerful. I don't know what I don't know.
Wait, what's his name? I gotta write that
Wood
down.
Kid.
Wood Kid. He must
Yeah.
have made up that name too.
We went to see him, and we went to Montreal, and we were walking the
Oh, is
streets.
that who you just went to see?
No.
Oh.
No, and we were walking the streets, and I happened to see this man walking with his dog, and his head was down, and I said to my wife, he looks like he's wearing a baseball hat like Woodkid. And we happened to like brush shoulders because he moved, because his dog was right there, and I looked at him and I was like,
That is Wood Kid.
and then I like pushed him because I was like, oh, you're Woodkid. And my wife was like, that's creepy, don't do that. And then he stood back and looked at me, and we spoke, and I took a photograph, and I couldn't believe it. It
my
was just walking the streets.
Wow.
But a really
Wow.
cool guy that's just really inspirational, and again, a true vision of creativity that is so, deep in messaging in every aspect of his life.
Oh, I love deep messaging. That's a great.
Just from color to, you can come up with an album, but he designs a logo, and it's got a theme, and there's a story behind that.
Right.
Very cool.
How
Is there
does
a-
someone like him evolve? Keep like creating a new story within the new
New album.
album.
New album
But I
tells
think it's
the new story.
I think it's the social channels
Yeah.
that feed
It's
the
true.
creativity that is far beyond just music.
Right. It's like with that Taylor Swift, she drops these little nuggets, and people
Right.
like look at the way she just made a post and what her eyes looked like. They're like, that
Right.
means this, and
Right.
it's really
Right.
really
Right.
amazing.
Last question. Which building or structure captivates you? Is there one? A building or a structure? Design.
So there's two architects that have broken the mold. Zaire Hadid.
Uh-huh.
She's phenomenal because every structure, again, she's about she's about captivating everything beyond
Yep.
just the architectural element, and she pushes boundaries.
Yep.
And Frank Gehry,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
again,
He's legendary
the whole
too,
legendary,
iconic,
the whole
yeah.
idea of just taking pieces and throwing it up and having them
So is
fall.
there
and
any one structure or building that,
Well, he's got so
The-
many good ones.
but is there any one that you really like?
I love every piece that Zaire did. She did 1,000 Museum in Miami,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, one of my least favorites of her. But Frank Gehry, I think it's the Bilbo Museum in Spain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like
That
the same
structure is just
iconic one.
phenomenal. It's just,
Well, and for her, there's not a lot of female architects. I kind of have one of my kids. I'm trying to like
Push, yeah.
push
we
a
got
little
we have a
that
daughter
way.
push.
She's
because
push.
for a female, like there's just such a different.
Yeah, I mean, she was
Facets.
respected She was a worldwide respected architect and a female that
Yeah.
had so much she was just so different, and she pushed all the boundaries.
She did. I know.
It's phenomenal.
It's an exciting career to watch. Well, thank you.
Thank you. That was really
Thanks for
nice. I
joining us.
enjoyed
Thank you for
speaking with you.
having,
And
coming here and
thanks for
having a
inviting me.
conversation with us.
thank you.
I learned so much.
For anyone who's looking and interested in learning more about Gavin, it's the damngood.agency
Agency.
is what
Thank
you
you.
should be looking up and Googling.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.